OK, let's start. Thanks, everyone, for coming to my talk. This talk is about Terraform. And for those who don't know me, I'm always talking about Terraform. And this time, I will be talking about compliance. And hopefully, it will be practical, because as we move forward, this should be more and more actual for a lot of companies. And I will try to explain why during this talk. I always like to have talks as interactive as possible. So to facilitate this, I will raffle a couple of these books at the end. So make sure that you ask interesting question, and I will decide what is interesting. OK? So, my name is Anton Babenko. For the last 10 years, I've been doing many different things in this AWS field, and I enjoy contributing to the open source. Some of you may have heard about terraform-aws-modules, and hopefully you use them for your AWS infrastructure. So a couple other projects you may have seen, Terraform best practices. If you are into learning Terraform, I highly recommend you to read this free ebook, which is translated into 20-something languages. And people seem to still point to it as source of good starting point for the discussion. So you may disagree with some points, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. So just read it, have your own opinion, and you will be able to at least participate in discussions and maybe open pull requests, because that's how it works. Everything what you see here is open source. And yeah, I encourage contributions, because I don't have time to maintain all of this. Pre-commit Terraform is a very useful project for companies and for projects who are curious about how to keep documentation up to date, and how to make sure that code is clean and valid all the time. So if you are using Terraform, please check this project out. And and in general, you can follow me everywhere, even on chess.com if you play chess. My nickname is always the same. But let's just don't talk about Terraform in chess chat, OK? So I also produced, I don't know how many, 200-something episodes of your weekly dose of Terraform, because I wanted to share some information, and here we are. Also, if you like to read what's happening in the Terraform ecosystem, every Wednesday I'm publishing newsletter about different blog posts about different open source projects. And please subscribe. Weekly.tf is website. OK, go back. Take a photo. Good. Next. So terraform-aws-modules is the biggest project which I have been working for the last 8 years. Yeah, time flies. 8 years. And currently, it is more than 50 Terraform-aws modules supported by the community with downloads, actually well over 2 billion times. It means that if you are spinning up infrastructure on AWS, you should not be thinking that, oh, you are doing something unique or something for the first time. Check this out. Go to examples folder, open issue, or maybe even open pull request if there is something missing. That's how open source is supposed to work. But in fact, it doesn't work this way. It works because of these contributions and financial support from at least these people and companies. So if you like what you are using, please don't hesitate to become sponsor. That's pretty much a full-time job for me. Also, if becoming GitHub sponsors is not something what you like to do, I realize that it's impossible to live from the open source. And I don't have time for full-time job. That's why I started working on Terraform Compliance Simplified project with good support and a lot of ideas from a friend of mine, Natalie. She is here. You can clap to her. Thank you very much. Because she was really the person who explained to me, like, oh, there is a problem which you can solve. And after many discussions and a lot of kind of complaints, we figured out that, yes, this is a thing which we can solve. And I will explain more about this project, but I really want to say big thanks to her for starting this in my head. And what is actually simplified here? Well, let's look into this photo. If we look into how our life was at least for our parents, right? Oh, let's dream about something good, about our, oh, let's buy a house, let's do this. But in reality, now we see a lot of people like, oh my God, I need to do this control automation for this compliance framework, and a lot of crazy and scary words. It's a little bit unnecessary. So I want most of us, well, actually all of us, to be like on the top photo and leave something like something crazy for automation, for ready-made projects, for something what I call compliance TF. Okay, this was intro, and let's talk about something more useful, right? So I will try to explain briefly what is compliance, and I will walk through a little bit through the compliance process, and then most of the time I hope to spend demoing some of the things. Some of them work as expected, but some of them are still incomplete. And if it fails, I will try to fix it in the middle. So what is compliance? In essence, compliance is just a way to prove to clients that they can trust their information to your business. That's pretty much it. And if we know what AWS, what shared responsibility model by AWS, then we can also think about this, that compliance is shared responsibility, where some of this work will have to be implemented by AWS, and something will have to be implemented by the customer. If you want to read more about shared responsibility model, it's on AWS website, and I don't think it has to be discussed here further. So compliance frameworks, what are they? In simple terms, it's just a collection of structured guidelines to satisfy certain safety requirements or industry standards to satisfy certain requirements. And most of the compliance frameworks focus on security and managing risks, so that you should know what will happen and how to improve your security posture in general. And in most cases, it involves the implementation of security controls, monitoring, and then detailed documentation to prove to legal and other controlling organization that you have done what you have supposed. So that's pretty much it. And as you can imagine, it really varies by industry and what type of data you are protecting, what kind of risk management you have, and so on. So let's look into what types of compliance framework actually exist. One of the most standard one, I would say, is the one which is called CIS, which is Center of Internet Security. And this, in most cases, is very smart set of best practices. There are very few reasons to not implement them out of the box. So if you think what you should be doing, check this, search for this information, and you will find a lot of implementation inside of AWS, inside of Security Hub, and in general, this is very publicly available information. Also SOC 2, which is more common in US, while in Europe, there is similar set of compliance framework requirements inside of ISO. And in Europe, there is also GDPR, which is a collection of different requirements. specifically tailored to protect personal information of individuals within EU. Obviously, you have heard there is PCI DSS, which is, again, specifically targeted to help you to control or to secure environment if you are accepting and processing and storing credit card information. So let's look briefly into how compliance process actually look like, right? So the first thing is that you need to understand not everything will be implemented by either of these sites. Not everything will be implemented by you or by your cloud provider. So you will have to do some, and Amazon will do some. Then you have to understand what kind of framework and what kind of regulations are you actually trying to satisfy. And then when you realize, OK, I'm going to chase certain compliance framework, you need to figure out, OK, how far we are actually in this journey. And there are a lot of tools out there. One which is built inside of AWS, obviously, is Security Hub, where using a couple clicks, you can have an understanding of your score and what is your compliance posture. I personally like Prowler, which I will try to show, but it will probably fail. But anyway, I will show it anyway. And SteamPipe is another CLI tool which has a lot of controls implemented. So you can do a lot of very cool things using SteamPipe and Prowler. And Cloud Query, I don't know if they still exist, but yeah, I put it here. I mean, they existed at some point, but now I see almost no reason to look into anything else than Prowler and SteamPipe. So kind of takeaway from what I have said so far is Prowler and SteamPipe. That's like home task for everyone interested in compliance. So once you figure out that your compliance posture is the following, like a lot of things are insecure or misconfigured, as previous tools said to you, you need to implement certain controls. So you need to go into your Terraform configurations. Does anyone use not Terraform? Good. Everybody use Terraform? Yes, good, good, good. Otherwise, leave this room. But OK, since everybody is still here, so you need to go to your Terraform configuration code and change it to make sure that your compliance posture tool are still saying that certain resources are secure and configured properly. And this is pretty tedious work. You will have to do a lot of archaeologist job, first of all. If you're a big company with a lot of repositories, a lot of Terraform modules, a lot of pipelines, you will have to spend quite significant amount of time going around and fixing all of these things, even if you need to implement it for just production environment. So you did this part of work, and you want to make sure that this is not happening over and over. So you will have to put tools to discover and to implement your compliance posture assessment into your pipeline. Or maybe, if you have enough time, you will even consider using something like AWS config and maybe writing some lambdas or whatever to implement auto-remediation. So for example, an example of auto-remediation is if a bad resource is created, then it should be terminated. For example, if instance is created with publicly open SSH port, it will be picked up by a bunch of different AWS services, and then the decision will be made to terminate this instance, for example, and send email to someone. So once you're happy that you did all of this, you ask somebody who doesn't care about what is AWS and whatever, and they just like screenshots, and you ask them, hey, can you assess that this screenshot is what you can give me audit report? And that's how compliance process looks like in, I don't know, in 60 seconds. So let's look into how to implement required controls. So the first thing is that obviously there are a lot of tools, like a lot of different type of tools. You will need to implement, or you will need to put tools like checkoff or Trivia or any other listed here into your pipeline to identify what kind of misconfigurations do you have. I currently, and for the last few years, still believe that checkoff is the best tool in this list. If you think that it's great and it supports 100% of cases, no, it does not support 100% of cases because the way how Terraform can be written is not fully compatible with the way checkoff rules can be written. So for example, you can write Terraform code which will produce a false positive for checkoff. So you need to be very careful with that. In most cases, it's no problem, but sometimes if you want to make really full dynamic module or pass arguments to some modules in very peculiar way, you need to be sure that checkoff is actually able to identify these cases. There is always a race between adding new features to Terraform and checkoff supporting this new functionality. So once you identify what kind of issues you have, you need to checkoff, for example, will report it to you. You need to review your Terraform configuration, and you run this tool, and you need to understand what piece of code actually has to be changed and how it has to be changed. So usually it's documented, or actually not usually, previously, it was documented on checkoff documentation, then it was migrated behind the firewall or behind the paywall or whatever, so it's not publicly available anymore. But still, you can find this information online, and you will understand how to change your configuration files so that your system, which identified them, actually happy. This, you need to be very important to understand that this can take quite a lot of time. Especially if you have a lot of configuration files all over, then this will be a lot of time-consuming and sometimes very strange changes because you think that it's written correctly, but tool will tell you that no, it should be another solution. Or, for example, you may think that it's OK in this case to have an exception, but tool enforce you to have this implemented only one way. It's not always possible, and there are sometimes very tricky solutions to do that. And another solution how you can do this, instead of researching all of these problems and going through individual fixes in your Terraform code, or if you use terraform-aws-modules, you need to look into each of these, and you need to implement all of them. You can look into using Terraform configurations provided by compliance TF, which are already compliance ready, which means that you skip time to research the problem and time to remediate, to apply remediation steps. So in essence, it looks something like this. So you run tool in your pipeline which scan your infrastructure as code. You see what kind of thing you have, and then you fix this non-compliant resources inside of your infrastructure as code. And you apply this infrastructure as code changes using your traditional CI/CD pipeline. Pretty much no rocket science. And continuously you scan your cloud resources using Prowler, which is a CLI utility, or using AWS config rules, or PowerPipe or SteamPipe. It doesn't really matter. The point here is that you need to implement certain steps to make sure that it is not possible to create incompliant resources. And for some people, it may look like, why I should be doing this in first place if I can just click somewhere in console. Of course you can, but that's probably not the right approach, because this will happen to be a problem next time, right? Next time somebody will create, and it will be, again, some misconfiguration and so on. So it has to be fixed in infrastructure as code. And again, I don't need to convince you that infrastructure as code is the right way to do, because it is the right way to do. Demo. Does anyone fall asleep? No. OK, then some demo will be good. Oh, OK, you don't see it. Oh, that's so bad. Let's see. Yeah. OK. Well, I hope you see it. You see it well. So what I want to show here in the middle. Oh yeah, Wi-Fi. I forgot about Wi-Fi, but I can try to connect, but it should work even offline. So I have this main TF file. This is a very simplified way, and I have only one Terraform configuration file here where I specify that I want to create a S3 bucket module, and I provide bucket name, which I want to use, and some parameter. Very straightforward, nothing complicated. In this process, if I'm using a module from the official Terraform registry, I can do this, right? And it will create me some bucket. Will this bucket be secure? No. Why nobody is saying no? No, it will not be secure, because it will be probably open to the public, or it will not have lifecycle rules, maybe some important parameters related to SOC 2 requirement related to replication configuration will not be implemented, versioning will be disabled, and so on. So that's pretty much what I will get if I use official module from the Terraform AWS modules from the registry. This is very much expected, and this is the beauty of the public Terraform modules. You get source code, and you provide infinite amount of parameters, and it's totally up to you what kind of resource you will create. If you're thinking about compliance, then you don't need to have this flexibility to be able to create whatever you want. Your choices will have to be reduced as much as possible. And what I mean by that is that you will have to specify, let's say, put in simple example, you need to enable lifecycle rule to this bucket. So you need to take module from the Terraform registry and specify lifecycle rule there. So then when you run Terraform apply, I hope it works, but maybe it doesn't. So then if I run Terraform apply, it will tell that it wants to, it wants to do something. It doesn't matter. In most cases, it wants to create lifecycle rule, right? Because that's what configuration tells. And you specify that you will create it. Fine. You can go further and further and apply more and more requirements for your case. If we look into how can this be improved, and what is actually the point of Terraform compliance solution, which I'm talking about here. The change which has to be implemented is that instead of pointing to the official Terraform registry, you point to registry.compliance.tf. Dev is just because I'm doing some development, and this is simpler. But registry.compliance.tf. As soon as you run Terraform login, and then you specify registry URL, which is registry.dev-compliance.tf, it will ask whether you really want to use OAuth and access that registry. You specify that, yes, that's you want. You specify which email you want to use. And now this token has been stored on my local environment, on my local machine inside of this folder, inside of this file, which means that now I can run terraform init, and it should be able to download this module from registry. So once this module is downloaded from the registry and I run terraform apply, it will complain. And why it will complain? Because the module itself says that there are a lot of things required for S3 bucket to have inside. For example, the compliance framework, which is chosen in this case, says that login has to be enabled, and you can read more information about this here, as well as replication configuration has to be enabled, or lifecycle rule. So without specifying all these properties for this, you will have this error. So I specified details for login, for versioning, and so on. And if I run it now, it should not complain about it. But you have to understand that writing this piece of code and piece of arguments every time is a little bit too much, and it shouldn't be necessary. So sometimes you will have to use, or you have option to choose official Terraform registry or compliant-ready Terraform modules. Another aspect which is very important to understand is that these modules really controlling the input of these arguments. So if I say that for some reason I want to specify that lifecycle rule should not be enabled, and I try to create this thing, which is, again, in compliant configuration, I should not be able to create this code, because that's the whole point of it. And if I run terraform apply, it will really say that POFIX check. POFIX is actually name of the utility, which is simplified policy and fixes. Also, Natalie gave a name to a homeless cat. Yeah, he called POFIX. That's funny. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's how it is enforcing check. So currently, using modules from the Terraform compliance registry is impossible to create incompliant resources. And that's pretty much the whole point of this solution. OK, so now if I run this apply, it should say that nothing else. Last thing which I want to show is Prowler. Prowler is a utility which I can run here using my local credentials. And if I run it, I specify which region I want to look, and I specify a couple regions here, because the infrastructure is created inside of these two regions, just to simplify it. Now it runs some scans, and it puts reports in some locations. It doesn't really matter. But we can see that there are a lot of errors, right? Some failed and some passed. Obviously, nobody is going to read these files, because we can look into dashboards. And that's where the beauty happens. It is starting this dashboard. And if I go here, and I can see in very nice UI, this dashboard shows all the problems which we identified. Here we can see that a lot of these errors are critical, and there are quite a lot of errors in just these two regions. Unfortunately, this UI is not very helpful, because actually I have a lot of other resources in this account. But if I go to, let's say, to check individual bucket, I will be able to identify, or somewhere here, yeah, I need to pay attention to this bucket account, or bucket IRN, sorry. And I can see sometimes that it's reporting that critical vulnerability discovered inside of bucket which is not covered by this case. But you can see that a lot of these things are actually passing, like in this case, S3 bucket have policies which allow write access, and this is a bucket name which I created, and you can see it marked as pass. Previously, if I wanted to create a bucket just with any configuration, I would be able to create a bucket which is insecure, and it will say fail. So please check out Prowler and what kind of solution do they have. It helps a lot if you want to understand overall, like what is going bad. It is pretty much direct competitor, or it has started by a person who worked for AWS, and then he realized that it's actually possible to make decent business out of it. And now it's open source project with some SaaS option as well. Okay, I think that's pretty much what I wanted to show. Yeah, I want to show a couple more things, which are another way to check the result is using AWS config rules. If you create them, then you can see that certain resources are compliant or not compliant. And yeah, this is website compliance.tf. And if you have questions, please ask questions, especially if you want to get this book. I have 2 books. Any questions? Looks like plenty of questions. Yeah.
The customized compliance Terraform registry, can you customize the rules that are in that for your own use, or are they kind of fixed?
This is definitely the highest feature, highest requested feature, which has to be implemented. Because if you look into a compliance framework, let's say SOC 2, it has so many controls, and almost never you need all of them.
Right.
So definitely you have to have possibility to customize it, though it is not yet implemented. Yeah, but if you don't need so strict security framework, let me show here. This is documentation for the S3 bucket module, which is docs.compliance.tf. You can see here that compliance framework controls and all frameworks which are here, they have different set of controls. And all of this is needed, and all of them are implemented. But they're different for different framework. If you want, you probably need to get something what is like CIS 140, and it's pretty decent that something is encrypted and HTTP requests are denied.
So I can pick which compliance framework I want to use?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can pick which framework you want to use, but definitely I want to make it even more customizable with much more ways to customize it. Because in many cases, you don't need to have all of this. Yeah. Yeah. Can you repeat, please, in the microphone? Or just scream. Yeah, Prowler is not related to any tool. It actually checks your infrastructure in the cloud. So it doesn't matter how you created these resources, it will log in to AWS or to the cloud, which in most cases can be local stack. That's what I do during development. I don't deploy everything all the time. I deploy it to the local stack, check that it does what it should, and yeah, it just talks to real cloud. And it can do this very fast. Yeah.
Having these sorts of compliance checks early is great, but given Terraform's declarative nature, do you think that this is sufficient for compliance or even your security team to argue to them that, yes, what I have deployed in production actually is compliant, or do we need multiple levels of quality gates?
Well, I didn't quite understand the question, to be honest.
So you're saying something's not compliant, so we're going to block it from your Terraform apply. But I could make it compliant and then apply it and then perform some click ops to change that unless I have other protections later on saying I can't do that. Or So for compliance reasons, would I be able to show that I'm using this and say, so I am compliant because I have this early quality gate, or no?
Well, obviously, the tool is intended to do best kind of effort if you're using it properly. If you're doing it click ops and changing it other ways, tool will not help you so much. Tool will simply allow or prevent you from doing bad things initially, but it will not stop you from doing it through AWS console, otherwise click ops, whatever. Yeah, so I think yeah, that's a really important point, is that you have best intention to create compliant resources, but tool doesn't stop you to create incorrect things if you can. So there should be another mechanism to beat people who did bad things through console, and this is not this tool. I'm not sure if I answered your question, but yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Thank you.
No, I just think I don't know that if I'm providing evidence to an auditor that I can use this tool.
Yep.
So based on the previous question, if that click ops happened, right, I still can see my dashboard and apply tool again through CI to fix the click ops, for example, right?
Yeah.
Will it revert changes to the compliance as they should be applied?
Yeah, so you will be able to run, for example, Prowler, and it will tell you what has been drifted. And Prowler has this nice diagram, which on my local has something like this. Of course, it's a very small difference, but red was 55 and green is 65, which means that incompliant resources were 55 and compliant are 65, which is plus 10 steps kind of ahead. And yeah.
Sorry, we're run out of time, so if you have questions, we can bring the question to the hallway. You can always ask Anton.
Thank you very much.